My name is Julia Simmons. I'm 38 years old. I'm a nurse in Columbus, Ohio. And what I'm about to tell you goes beyond human comprehension. I died. Clinically dead. No heartbeat, no brain response, no sign of life. And it was at that very moment that something extraordinary happened. Jesus appeared before me. If you think that everything ends at the moment of death, you are wrong. Because what he showed me about the soul, it left me groundless. Leave your like, share this video, and prepare your heart. What I'm going to tell you can change the way you see life and death. My life has always been busy. A nurse for over 12 years, I work long shifts at Mount Carmel East Hospital, and despite being surrounded by pain and death on a daily basis, I never felt prepared to face it. Until the unexpected happened to me. It was a Wednesday, late March. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when I felt an absurd pressure in my chest. I thought it was anxiety or maybe a panic attack. After all, after the pandemic, these crises became part of the routine of many of us on the front line. But within seconds, I lost strength in my legs. Everything was spinning. My breathing was short. And suddenly it got dark. The last thing I heard was the sound of the plate falling to the floor. And then silence. But even in the silence, something inside me was still alive. It was as if my consciousness refused to disappear. And that's where it all began. The moment. My heart stopped. There are no exact words to describe what happens when your heart stops. It's as if time is suspended. I didn't feel pain, but I didn't feel peace either. It was a kind of vibrant emptiness, as if I were between two worlds, and nothing belonged to me anymore. Then I found out that it was exactly 7 minutes without a heartbeat, the time the ER doctor struggled to revive me. But while the machines beeped and desperate hands pressed my chest, I was no longer there. I found myself outside my body, floating in the corner of the room, watching everything. The scene was surreal, my skin pale, my eyes half closed, the medical team running, adrenaline everywhere. But what shocked me the most was not feeling afraid. On the contrary, there was a supernatural calm, as if an invisible presence was holding me, comforting me. And then a light began to form next to me. It was no ordinary light. She seemed alive, pulsating, love, and in the center of it, a man. A man I had known since I was a child, but had never seen with my eyes. Jesus, floating above my body, the beginning of revelation. I floated a little more than 2 meters above my body. Everything around me was movement and tension, but inside me, a sacred silence settled. No pain, no worries, just an intense awareness. I died. But along with this realization came something much bigger. His presence. Jesus did not speak immediately. He just looked at me. And that look crossed all my memories, fears, doubts. It was as if every part of my story was before him. And he knew me better than I knew myself. His face shone with a soft but intense golden light. He didn't move like an ordinary man. It was as if eternity itself pulsated around him. At that moment, I realized that it was not just a spiritual experience. It was a calling. The atmosphere changed. Everything became lighter, more translucent. I saw the hospital lagging behind. It was as if the physical place could no longer contain me. And it was then that Jesus reached out to me. He didn't say, "Come." But my soul understood perfectly. We were going to a place where the deepest questions would finally be answered. And the first one I burned inside to do was, what happens to the soul after death? Jesus appears, a look that invaded my soul there. Are no words in human language that can capture what I felt when Jesus stared at me. It was a look that did not judge, but also did not hide the truth. His eyes had the depth of centuries, a sea of love, justice, compassion, and power, all at the same time. I felt naked inside. He saw everything, every thought, every mistake, every prayer whispered in silence. And yet, he loved me, a love so real that it broke me inside. I cried without tears. I cried with my soul. His presence was like an embrace in the most intense cold of existence. Everything I had feared about dying, the judgment, the loneliness, the end, vanished before that presence. There I understood, death is not the end. It is the beginning of something bigger. Jesus approached, and even without moving his lips, he spoke to me. Communication was direct, from spirit to spirit, and he said to me, "Julia, you have questions, and I have answers. But first you need to understand time, the time of the soul." It was then that he stretched out his arm, and as if tearing at the invisible fabric of reality, he showed me things that no human being would ever understand without the help of the Spirit. We were about to start an eye-opening journey. The first question I asked, what now? Where does the soul go? There before Jesus, with eternity echoing silently around me, I couldn't contain the question that burned deep in my soul. What now, Lord? Where am I going? Where does the soul go? After death? He did not immediately respond. He did something more powerful. He showed me. In the blink of an eye, we were somewhere else. There was no ground, no sky as we know it. Everything was spiritual, but extremely real. It was like being on a plane where time doesn't exist, a place between worlds. Jesus looked at me and said, "The soul does not disappear. She remains conscious. And what happens after death depends on the heart and faith that this soul carried in life." Those words pierced me like arrows. I, who thought I understood life and death by living with terminal patients, realized that I knew almost nothing. Jesus continued, "The soul, when it leaves the body, goes through 3 moments. And these moments are decisive. Many are ignorant of it, but it is in my word." He stretched out his hand, and before us something like a veil was opened, and through it I began to see. First, the soul observes I saw an elderly woman in a hospital bed. She had just died, but her soul was still there, floating, watching her daughter cry, trying to touch her, wanting to say something, but without voice, without body. Jesus explained to me, "This is the moment of transition. The soul still feels attachment to the earth, notes, feel, remember. Some remain for hours, other days, but they shouldn't be." He pointed to another scene. Awake. The soul of the deceased was standing in the corner of the room, looking at all those present, feeling the lament, the love, the repentance of the living. And there I understood. The soul witnesses all this before it goes on. Second moment, the decision. Then I saw 2 spiritual roads forming before different souls. One was shrouded in light. There was peace, love, a music that was not heard, with the ears, but with the spirit. The other, it was dark, heavy, silenciosa, by souls hesitating, others being taken, some trying to flee from the darkness but being pulled into it, not for punishment but for consequence. Jesus said to me, "Judgment begins when the soul meets the truth. The light reveals everything. The soul goes where it belongs, and each choice made in life becomes a step towards the light, or into darkness." Third moment, the separation. Then he showed me something even deeper. The souls who do not want to leave the earth. People who died with sorrows, grudges, fears, unhealthy ties. They remain imprisoned, wandering. It is not a divine punishment. It is an unconscious choice to remain where the heart is tied. I saw a man who had died abruptly. His soul returned every day to his home, where his wife still wept. He was desperate. He didn't want to leave her alone. But the longer he stayed, the more his spirit became cloudy, heavy, until he forgot who he was. He even forgot that he had died. Jesus looked at me again and said, "This is why I reveal, so that souls may be freed, so that they choose the light before it's too late." The 3 times of the soul revealed by Christ, as we floated through that space where time did not exist, Jesus led me through a sequence of visions that he called the 3 times of the soul. He said with a serenity that dismantled me inside, "My daughter, man lives counting the days on earth, but forgets that the soul also has its time. and each soul passes through 3 stages after death, like seeds going through seasons before harvest. At that moment, the sky opened up before me like a scroll, and I began to see the invisible journey that thousands of souls live every day, and no one comments. Time 1. Earth time. Jesus showed me that many souls remain for a short time among the living, to see, to learn, to say goodbye. It is a time of liberation, a time where the soul needs to let go of the bonds of the world. I saw the scene of a young man who had died in a car accident. Her soul floated on the road, confused, trying to get back to her body. He screamed, but no one heard him. I saw his mother crying at home, and he tried to touch her, desperate. "This is the time of detachment," said Jesus. "Some souls take hours, others a few days, but all must choose to go forward." I was deeply moved. I thought about how many families cry for their loved ones, not knowing that many times they are there, watching in silence. Time 2. The time of truth. Then Jesus showed me a field of light. Their souls were being enveloped by something like a living breeze, which whispered love and revealed who they really were. "Here," said Jesus, "the soul is confronted with the truth. No masks, no justification." Saw people who in life thought they were good, correct, religious. But when the light touched them, they saw the true intentions behind their actions. I saw others, humble, simple, rejected by society, but who shone like stars when touched by the light of truth. Jesus continued, "At this time, the soul understands where it belongs, to the light or to the darkness. Judgment begins in the heart." Time 3, the time of separation, and then came the harshest vision. The separation. I saw 2 spiritual multitudes, one ascending like golden fire, surrounded by angels and heavenly praises, the other descending in dark spirals like airless smoke. Some souls cried, others screamed, still others tried to flee, but there was no injustice. Each one followed where her essence led her. Jesus said to me with tears in his eyes, "I died for all of them. But not all of them chose me." Separation is not a punishment. It is the end of a path that began with a decision in life. That broke me inside. I understood that the soul does not go straight to heaven or hell as many think. There is a process, there is a time, and there is a decision. And the revelation was just beginning, the truth about the wake and the early. Days, Jesus led me to a new scene, this time closer to the earth. Low lights, flowers, people crying. There was the body of a middle-aged woman in a coffin, and above it, your soul. She was confused, sad, and arrested. Jesus looked at me and said, "Many souls remain during the first days. They see the wake, listen to the conversations. They feel the weight of unspoken words, sincere prayers, and, unfortunately, also the lies." I saw that soul trying to embrace his son, who was crying at the foot of the coffin. She touched it without touching it. He screamed his name without a voice. It was as if her pain multiplied when she saw the suffering of those she loved. Jesus continued, "That is why forgiveness before death is important, of love lived in life, because many souls carry grievances that keep them tied to the earth. They stay where the heart was." The wake. An emotional portal. Jesus showed me other wakes. In one, I saw people fighting for inheritance in front of the body. The soul of the deceased shrank in pain, as if every word was a blow to his essence. In another, I saw a family praying in faith. The soul floated in peace, as if it were lulled by every word of love spoken in that environment. Jesus explained, "The wake is more for the soul than for the living. It's the moment when she feels the real impact of the life she's lived." I understood then that the way we live echoes at the moment of departure, and the way our family members say goodbye to us. It can help or imprison. The spiritual mirror, Jesus, led me to a place that looked like a shrine. There, souls looked at something like a mirror, but it did not reflect the physical body, but the inside. I saw souls getting emotional, others getting scared. It was there that many understood who they really were, and at that moment Jesus said something that I will never forget. The soul does not carry what it has possessed, but what it has loved. It doesn't show what it has achieved, but what it was. Those first days after death are intense. There is no more time. There is only truth, and it is in this truth that the soul decides. It frees itself, or remains chained to everything that remained. The soul's trapped between two worlds, visions that frightened me. Jesus held my hand firmly. His eyes were serious. The surrounding light seemed to have become denser. He told me, "Julia, now I will show you what few can bear to see, the souls who did not follow, those who chose to remain between two worlds." And then, as if he had torn the veil between dimensions, I was taken to a place that looked like Earth. But it wasn't. It was a dark reflection of the physical world, a space where everything seemed motionless, cold, and timeless. Lost souls in repetition. The first scene took my breath away. I saw the soul of a man walking repeatedly through the streets where he died. He crossed the same corner, looked at the same buildings, with the same look of confusion, as if he didn't know he was dead. Jesus explained to me, some souls reject the reality of death. They get so attached to the routine, to the body, to the people, who refuse to move forward. They enter into cycles of repetition, prisoners of their own denial. I also saw a woman in her old house. She sat on the same couch, watched the television turned off, stood still for hours, every day. Nothing there held her but her own mind. The weight of sorrows elsewhere. I saw a soul shrouded in a kind of thick fog. She cried endlessly, muttering words of hatred and regret. Jesus spoke sadly. She died full of spite. He never forgave. And now she is stuck in what she felt. What do you feel? Follows you after death. It was a painful reminder. Forgiveness, which seems so difficult in life, is a spiritual key after death. Without it, the soul becomes hostage to what it should have left behind. Bonds that imprison. I saw a father who had died years before, but still followed his daughter everywhere. Not in a protective way, but obsessively. He suffocated her spiritually. She felt heaviness, sadness, oppression, and she didn't know why. Jesus showed me, when love becomes possession, even the soul is lost. He couldn't let go of her, and, therefore, he could not go up either. I have seen many others like this, souls who have refused to let go of their possessions, their homes, their vices, and they were all bound, not by God, but by their own choices. A revelation that hurt me. Jesus took me to an abandoned hospital. There, dozens of souls wandered the corridors. Some screamed, others were crying, and they all seemed to be looking for something they were never going to find. These, said Jesus, are the ones who have gone without faith, without hope, and without love. They still don't understand that they died, and spiritual time, it's paralyzed for them. It was the most painful place I saw. It wasn't hell. It was worse. It was oblivion. I returned from that place with a heavy spirit, but Jesus looked at me and said, "That's why you're back, Julia, to tell, to wake up, to liberate." The last vision, the day of the great gathering. After the frightening visions of the trapped souls, Jesus took me to a completely different place. It was as if the sky opened, golden, pure, bright light, but soft, like an eternal sunset. I felt my spirit being enveloped by a peace that does not exist here on earth. It was as if the whole universe breathed together. And then Jesus said, "Now I will show you what awaits those who have chosen me." The trumpet. The vision began with a deep silence, and suddenly, a trumpet sounded. A sound so powerful that it crossed galaxies. A call that no being, living or dead, could ignore. It was the signal. I then saw millions of souls appearing on the horizon, like lights turning on one by one in infinity. They were all different, but there was something in common in each of them. A twinkle in their eyes, an expectation in their chest. Jesus smiled and said, "It is the day of promise, the day when the spirit and the body meet again. The resurrection of the righteous." The earth trembled. Graves opened, but it wasn't a terror, it was glory. Bodies were transformed into light. I saw old people coming back young, children being carried by angels, families reuniting. And then I saw something even more impactful. I saw people who had died alone, forgotten, rejected, being honored before all heaven. Jesus explained to me, "The world may have forgotten about them, but I don't. No righteous person is ignored in my kingdom." The meeting with the King all souls, now reunited, walked a path of pure gold. At the end of it, a throne. And on the throne, Jesus. But this time he was not as he appeared to me at first. Now he was in glory. Resplendent robes, eyes like flames, and a crown that seemed made of eternity itself. Each soul knelt, but not out of obligation. It was love. It was delivery. It was as if they were finally where they had always belonged. The book of life. Then I saw an angel open a huge book. It was the book of life. Each name read caused a cry of joy among the heavens. Jesus said to me, "Those who live for me do not die. Sleep. And on that day, awaken forever." The final separation, but I also saw others, souls who could not enter. Not because God rejected them, but because they rejected the light while they lived. I saw tears. I saw souls crying out, but the door was already closed. Jesus, with sadness in his eyes, said, "The time of mercy is now. Then comes the time of harvest." I cried, but I also smile, because in that last vision I understood. Death is just a bend in the way. The real life. It starts later. I came back with a mission. Tell everything before it's too late. After the last vision, I felt my spirit prostrate. There was no way I could get out of that place the same way I entered. My spiritual eyes had been opened, and my soul knew I would not return by chance. Jesus approached me again. He put his hand on my shoulder and said with authority and tenderness, "Julia, you have seen what many refuse to believe. Now go. Tell them. Be warned. Time is shortening." My heart raced. How could I, a simple nurse, carry such a responsibility? But before fear could overwhelm me, he said, "You will not come back alone. My spirit will be with you. And every word you speak will touch where no one else can reach." The spirit. The return to the body, in an instant I felt a tug. A force dragged me back. My spirit seemed to resist. I didn't want to leave that peace. But Jesus looked at me one last time and said, "It's not time to stay yet. There are lives that need your voice." And then everything went dark. Too dark. Until a scream, an intense light, and I opened my eyes. He was back in his hospital bed. The medical team surrounded me, shocked, emotional. They had managed to revive me after 7 minutes of clinical death. One of the doctors, trembling, said, "This is a miracle. You were completely out." Little did they know that I was somewhere else, and that he had returned with a mission burning in his chest. The urgency of the message. Since that day, my life has never been the same. I abandoned the empty rush. I started to see each person as a soul in transit. Every look, every gesture, every word carries eternity, and that's why I'm here. Not for fame, not for views, but because time is running out. Jesus showed me many souls are still imprisoned. Others are on the verge of perdition, and some, they need only one word to free themselves. And maybe that word comes from you. Conclusion. The harvest is coming. If you've watched this far, don't ignore this call. Death is certain, but eternity, it's a choice. Christ has brought me back to remind you that the time of grace is now. Forgiveness is available. The light is still accessible. But the door, it will not stay open forever. If this message touched your heart, please share it. Send it to someone who needs to listen. Comment below, say you're awake, and subscribe to this channel because together, we are preparing the harvest. The clock is ticking, but salvation is still within reach. Jesus is calling.